I don't think my whole intro was caught there. And there we are. Welcome to the Games Talk Live podcast. Hopefully we're live. I'm not sure because I'm not seeing it up right now. Are we live? Are we not? Hello.
Who knows?
This is weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it says we're live. It says
either.
stop streaming on my end.
Okay.
But I don't
waiting.
see it on their end.
There it goes. There it goes. There was no intro though.
Yeah, it absolutely skipped my intro.
Go figure.
Okay. Welcome to the Games Talk Live podcast yet again. Hopefully you guys have joined us here. Here's some music for you, even though it really sucks, but here you go. Maybe I'll play some of this. There you go. Welcome to the Games Talk Live podcast. I'm your host, Jay Fonzarelli. And with me, of course, every week, Hargeet I. How you doing, Hargeet?
Oh, good enough. Yeah, it's been another interesting week. Some more interesting news.
Yeah, very
always
interesting news. Always something going on in the gaming space. That's why it's always good to talk every weekend with my good friend here and also with all of you out there watching. I see 35 of you watching live right now, and I welcome each and every one of you. Thank you very much for coming back to this little space. BT Maverick, I see you. Biff Rinaldi, Lotus, Esprit in the chat. I see Talos, Ray, It's Timmy, version 2.0, Barry. How are you doing? He says fire music, by the way. Yeah, it's great if you're into NPR, right? If you like NPR, that's pretty much your jam, right? We're going to have a good time today. Hargeet, what have you been up to this past week?
Catching up. I came back from a trip and then I was just kind of catching up for the week and then I played a little bit, not too much. I've actually been writing a book. See if I can put something out there. A sci-fi book. So I've been spending a lot of time trying to do that.
What kind of book is that?
It's a sci-fi novel. It was intended to be a game, but I'm like,
really?
Dude, it'd take forever to make this game. I'm just gonna make it a book.
Well, start out as a book. If it's great to hit, go into games and movies and TV shows and everything else.
Transmedia, right? And it can go into go to whatever.
There you go.
So it's like whatever. So see how it goes.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So spending quite a bit of time on that.
Nice. You have a title yet or no?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's literally like I had a whole structure for a game. I had like everything all set.
Wow.
I just had to actually go do it, and I'm like, take forever.
Is it like this sci-fi, like space and stuff?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any UFOs in that?
I will not spoil anything.
Aliens?
I will not spoil anything.
I love it. I can't wait for that to come out and for Colt not to read it. Anyways, no, I'm just kidding. Colt doesn't read. No, Colt does read. And I see Colt Eastwood in the chat right now. Welcome, Colt. It's good to have you here, man. It's great to have everybody here today.
Books is Rand reads books. So
Rand reads a lot. Rand Althor 19, the man with a million. Yeah. He reads a lot.
He will. We'll see.
What about in terms of gaming? Anything playing there this week? What's
not too much. I played a little puzzler. I've bought a bunch of stuff, but I haven't played any of it because I just figured I'd keep working on my book. But
makes sense.
But yeah, I need to go back to actually playing. I don't think I'm not sure if I've actually played Dragon's Dogma 1. I can't seem to recall it, so I'm like, what the hey? I have it on PC. I'll just load it up, and there's a whole bunch of like mods that make it look better and stuff. So I'm like,
yeah, I tried those.
Put those in and so I'm gonna put the mods in and see if I can get through that game. But yeah,
you know what? It's dated, but then again, the gameplay itself is still really fun. It's still there. It's still good. Cool. The gameplay is really good in these games. I'm going to talk a bit about Dragon's Dogma in a minute. But first, I want to give a big shout out to Lotus Esprit for another 5 gifted memberships to the channel. You have been very generous, Lotus. I appreciate you so much, and thank you. Appreciate that. And I got Big Boss Mod Lethal Papa in the house saying, what's up to everyone? Hit that like button and share this show out. I don't say that enough, so I would appreciate if you guys did that, because it would help out the channel immensely, and especially this little podcast right here. We're not very big, but we'd like to be. We'd like to be. Sponsorship someday, you know? Hey, Manscaped, I'm looking at you. Maybe, you know, we can do something there. Anyways, Hargeet needs it, okay? Hargeet needs it.
Right.
Look at that beard. No, he'll never shave the beard. The beard will stay. The beard is amazing. The beard is awesome. And Lotus is free with another 10 gaming memberships here for, oh my God. Lotus, you're too kind, brother. Too kind. So I've been playing a bit of Last Epoch. I've been trying to get through that game before Dragon's Dogma. However, Dragon's Dogma drops this Thursday night, Friday, morning. I will be on that game no matter if I beat Last Epoch or not. I don't care. Like, Dragon's Dogma 2 is one of the most anticipated titles for me this year, so I will be there. But one thing I want to warn people, because I've been seeing a lot of people out there talking about Dragon's Dogma 2 in a way that they're hyped for it, yet some of these people I know didn't play the first one, and they're kind of equating it to like Elden Ring and stuff. And I just want to warn people that I'm not saying the game is bad, because it's awesome. I am so looking forward to this. I like the first one. However, it's not like your typical RPG that we're used to today, your open world RPG. Whereas like with Elden Ring, you can be like a solo beast out there with all, and kick some butt. It's more about being with your group makeup of your pawns and stuff with you. You've got, magic user, you've got your, that heals you and can, have a lot of damaging spells as well. You've got your knights, you've got your guy with daggers and stuff. Like, you've got a different group makeup you can go into each battle with. And some bosses are susceptible to certain things. Some bosses may not be susceptible to magic. So you may want to go in there with, more physical melee type attacks and stuff. And the combat system isn't really what we're used to as of late either. With the combat system, you don't really have your typical, your parries and your dodges and stuff. Those aren't really there. So you will be using your block. You'll be trying to strategize where you want to move in to fight the boss. You can jump on a boss's back. There's key places you can hit a boss to really damage it more and stuff. And it's more about that strategy and your pawns and your group makeup more than it is about, just you going in there and tearing crap up. Not saying you can't do that later on. Once you unlock a lot of the abilities and stuff, you get pretty tough. Like, I remember in Dragon's Dogma 1, I got to the point where I was able to beat some of these bosses on my own without my pawns. But you're going to need that at the beginning, very much so. Also, with the game, this open world aspect, it's a huge open world, okay? And there are very limited, like, fast travel points that you can create later on. When you get these, you have to use these stones and stuff. So you're going to be backtracking across this, big open world a lot. And I know some people might not like that. Also, there isn't it's not like a Ubisoft game. You don't open the map and see a bunch of quest markers all over the place. They are very sparse in where they give you a little quest marker or whatever. And it's to the point where you have to unlock it, sort of. Like, if you find a journal that tells you, hey, there's a treasure here, it might mark it on the map where the treasure is, maybe. But that's if you find it. So there's a lot of exploration that has to be done. There's not a ton of hand-holding at all within this game. So don't expect any of that. Like, you can even walk into some towns and you might find quest markers above certain NPCs' heads, but you can find quests through others that don't have quest markers above them at all. So I just want to warn people, like, this game is really about exploration and taking your time. So if you're into that, by all means, get the game. It's amazing. Like, for that, it's a really engrossing game that you can just jump into and, like, just feel immersed into this world. And you start off with your main pawn. Well, you end up getting a main pawn, and it's the one you create at the beginning of the game and everything. But or that we've created so far, because that's been out for like a week or 2 weeks now. The part where you can make your pawn and your main character. And then you'll be able to get other people's pawns as well on your team. And that's one of the coolest aspects. If you haven't played the first, what's cool is your main pawn, as you stop playing the game and you're doing whatever, you're not playing, your pawn will continue to play with other people out there in the real world. Your pawn will gain experiences that you might not have within the game. So that's the cool part. They'll come back after they get those experiences. And if you come across that with your pawn, they'll tell you, hey, I know how to beat this boss. This is what you got to do, because I've done it with someone else. That key mechanic alone is so freaking cool. Never seen anything like it before Dragon's Dogma, but that is an awesome mechanic. But yeah, I just wanted to tell people a little bit about Dragon's Dogma. Make sure you guys, understand that that's how the game is. Because I know for some people, they like a bit of hand holding. They like those quest markers and things like that, but that's not there in this game. So don't expect that. But it's a good ride. If you're into that whole immersion in a big open world game that you're going to be running around a lot in. And when I tell you explore everything, I mean it. Like jump in rivers, jump in lakes, jump wherever you can, because there's always hidden things within the world. It's pretty incredible. Dragon's Dogma was very underrated in my opinion. It just got overshadowed really by bigger games like Skyrim back in the day. So, I mean, it's Skyrim, so of course it's going to be overshadowed, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Now with that out of the way, we can get into some real topics here, Hargeet. By the way, Hargeet, have you seen this canceled Spider-Man multiplayer game? Let me go ahead and pull that up. I've got that here. Yeah, so apparently up on the screen now is a multiplayer Spider-Man game that Insomniac was working on that was canceled. And there's a lot of people out there, rightfully so, kind of upset. Like, why'd you cancel this? This looks pretty cool. What do you think about this, Hargeet?
So, look, part of the problem with Sony and their model is that they want to create these like very high-end experiences. Okay, well, they're also costly. And maybe that's a nice teaser of what they were looking to do with story arcs for everybody, right? And going to everybody's universe and making everything happen. But all I see is it's going to cost money. Mm-hmm. And they come in and say, okay, cool. You want to go, green light this. It's going to be another $310 million. And Hiroki's sitting there going, you haven't even paid back the one that you just released. Well, why am I going to give you $310 million? Oh, and by the way, I still owe 25% to Disney? Where's your monetization? Oh, well, we haven't figured that out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask my experts here, Bungie. What do you think? You need to scale this team about like 4 times bigger. How much is that going to cost me? This is the problem you run into, right? And like it's easy to say, we'll learn from everybody's mistakes, right? That's what Jim Ryan said. No, you didn't. You made the same bloody mistakes. So like this is not unexpected, right? Like factions internally, they're saying that game's great.
Yeah.
How'd you monetize it? They didn't. Okay. So you want us to keep spending money, put it out, and not make anything back? Fail. So it got canceled. This is what they're going to run into. This is not easy to do, and that's why this failed. Now, if they said this is just a multiplayer game, it's going to cost you, $700 million to put it out there, and you have the budget for it, great. But can you guarantee you're going to get that back? That's a lot of sales.
Yeah.
It's a lot of sales to get that money back. So I don't know, right? My guess, I'm just guessing, is that they looked at the cost and said, hell no. As it is, your games are costing too much. On top of that, you put the stupid stipulation that I got to send a quarter of it to Disney before I even take any revenue in. And I gotta market the hell out of these games.
I think that's the
Why?
one biggest thing that we're seeing lately is that the AAA space is hurting a bit because of those exploding budgets. Though they're
Hmm.
massive right now. I mean, again, I'll mention GTA 6 is reportedly going on to a $2 billion budget in making and that game and marketing
But
and
you're
everything else.
gonna make
That's
it back,
insane.
right?
No,
So
of
I don't.
course. I mean, GTA is an enigma in
Enigma,
itself.
yeah,
Like that game is going to sell like nobody can even
yeah.
fathom.
I'm sure it'll easily make that back.
Yeah,
I don't think that's
I'm
gonna be
sure
an
it
issue.
will.
But
But
that's not every game.
yeah, that's not every game. But you know, when you look at something like this Spider-Man multiplayer game, it looked
Mhm.
like something that I could see being a W for Sony, seeing that it can actually do
You think
well.
it was well enough?
But I don't know about how much they were spending on it, you know, to make this game. I don't know exactly the budget there because I'm sure they would reuse a lot of assets and stuff from Spider-Man 2. I mean, it's easily
Yeah.
done. They can do that. Um, so I don't know what it would do because you look at the success of Helldivers 2, and this is a
Yep.
smaller game and a game that is ballooned up pretty darn big.
Yep.
But you see that people are clamoring for a multiplayer game, um, especially on the Sony side. And Helldivers 2 looks like it's a winner for them. This just looks like it could have been another one for them, in my opinion. This the way I look at it. It's sad to see that to me, but I understand what you're saying completely. If they're not meeting that budget, if they're not paying it back, um, is it really worth it? And I think that's the thing that many of these multiplayer games that seem to have that component where they want to try to make revenue, recurring revenue. Um, that's what they're gonna. That's the issue they face: is will this work? Will this stick? And how long will it stick for? How much are people going to really spend into this game? And
Yep.
even with a big franchise like Spider-Man, that's still up in the air for them. As you can see, they canceled it. I mean, they're a bit nervous there, and it sucks though. It
Yeah.
really does suck.
Well, I mean, if they change their tactic and recondition their players to say uber graphics and perfect everything is not necessary for a game to be successful, then perhaps they could have made the game. But the reality is they're going to go get actors. They're going to have motion
Yeah,
capture for every single one of them. Each one of them will cost them a crap ton of money. And that game would end up being $400 million. And you know, how much of that can you sustain? Right. And then you say, okay, well, you spend 400 up front, you're going to spend another 200 in marketing it. And you have to pay the royalties. Right. So you're looking at 800-900 million before you break even.
this is
Okay.
okay. You know what?
That's insanity.
This is where I start an argument with people concerning AI within games. Because on one hand, I totally get it. As voice actors and stuff, you want to get, you know, the roles, you want to get paid. That makes sense. You know, that's your livelihood. That's your job.
Yep.
I myself has, you know, been in a video game, and I want to break into the industry as well, voice acting and stuff. And it's tough when you look at, you know, where AI is going, but at the same time, AI could be a situation where it could help in those with those budgets. You can have a lot of AI take the place of a lot of side characters and things like that, or you know, AI can be used in other ways, of course, besides voice acting. But there's situations where it can be used to help with these budgets, and you know, that's where I'm kind of conflicted with it. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think
it
if you
sucks.
stick to voice actors, it's not as bad, right? What they do instead is they go to Hollywood and say, we want to get actors and mocap them.
Hmm.
Well, that's going to cost you, right? And
Yeah,
if you're going to
yeah,
do that, then expect your budgets to balloon. But they've conditioned their players that that's
facts.
what you have to get. And it's like, well, you don't have to do that. You really don't. Sea of
Yeah,
Thieves works fine. It did not need to cost $600 million to make Sea of Thieves, and it didn't. Why? It's cartoony graphics. Who cares? They can be voiced. They are voiced. But that doesn't mean it costs them that much money. You just have to change your tactics. Unfortunately, they have set the standard, and now they have to deal with it, right? And if they
Yeah.
can deviate away from that and say, you know what, we don't have to make every game God of War. We don't have to make them like that, right? Spider-Man does not have to be this high quality whatever. It just needs to be a game that you can play. If they multiverses it, right? Like Multiverses was fun, right? Those characters were cartoony. That's
Or
perfectly
they
fine.
can have the same quality, the same experience, but on a lower scale. And what I mean by that is they can split these games up into 2 and 3 parts, like they say they
But you
might
can't with
do.
the multiplayer. That's a headache you run into, right? And,
True.
and so,
True.
like, so I don't know how they're going to plan to do this, but these are just my guesses. They're looking
Yeah.
at, hey, each one of these characters has to have a story arc. Each one of them is going to be mocapped. Each one of them is going to cost us an extra 30, 40 million dollars. And it's like, well, dude, come on. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just keep adding costs like this. So if you eliminate all that and say, we'll just make character skins, and who cares? It's like Fortnite. You can look like that character, but it does not matter. Right? Fair
Yeah.
enough. But that's not what they're going to do. It's Insomniac. They're going to make a storyline for every one of those. It's like, okay, fine. But that's why it gets canceled.
Yeah. Well, I happen to really like Insomniac, so it sucks that we don't get a multiplayer from them. But we will see what the future has for all of AAA gaming. Really, RDX Son of Fett. I see you, brother. He says, "Is an Xbox refresh really necessary?" Well, we'll get into that in a little while. We'll have a discussion on that for sure, and we'll let you know. Face 23 BKNY with the 1999 super chat says, "At Hargeet I, always bringing up money from Sony. What superhero multiplayer game was successful? Question mark. And if Sony was broke,
that's the problem.
They wouldn't approve the PS5 Pro. No, they're not broke.
Well, I mean, I don't know what broke,
but the budget, but
there's cost to everything.
The budgets are very inflated with some of these games, and they have been telling you, all of us, that we have not been enough as console buyers. And that is why they've pushed out games to the PC and stuff. They're trying to make more revenue. That's why they're trying more gas games. Yes, unfortunately, they've canceled more gas games than they've put out so far. But I think what they're doing now is they're really being choosy, right? They're probably picking and choosing which ones they think that will be really successful,
will actually work.
Yeah, and then they're just going to go with those. And that's why we're seeing a lot of cancellation. That's probably most likely it.
And Face, don't come to me with that. Go tell Hiroki Totoki, who's going around telling all his studios you don't make enough money, and he's changing all their tactics and canceling games. I'm not the one doing that. I'm not running Sony.
And why is
I'm
that?
not running PlayStation.
Not only is he the acting SIE president, he's also their chief financial officer.
Yeah. So if you have a problem with their tactics, feel free to go tell Hiroki you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not the one. I'm just relaying what they're saying, dude. Like, they're the one who canceled it. Right? I didn't cancel the game. So I'm just
Lotus is free, gifting another 10 memberships. Man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, Lotus. Too kind, brother. Too kind. Seriously, I don't understand why you want to be so nice, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you. You're an awesome human being for sure. And welcome to a supporter, Camix. I believe that's how you say it, right? Camix. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Yeah, it's a bit wild. I'm getting all these. I need to turn off some notifications in the background because I keep getting notifications popping up from some friends on WhatsApp. I see you, Colt. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about. Okay, so speaking of PlayStation, we've got the PS5 Pro specs. They're in the wild now. Well, apparently,
these are rumored, but yes.
Rumored, but according to Tom Henderson, this is what's being sent out to third-party devs. And if this is true, I'm going to put them up on the screen here. This is what we're getting. With the PS5 Pro rendering at 45% faster than the PS5, quite substantial there. 2 to 3 times more ray tracing, 4 times in some cases. This one I don't really get because, like, how much ray tracing are we talking about that we have now? Like, I don't understand this because it's like the ray tracing we currently have is not that great anyway. So I guess this is telling us, hey, we're going to get better ray tracing. And that's a good thing. That's awesome. 33.5 teraflops, Hargeet. And I know you were discussing this with me. And how were you equating this again about the teraflops? You were telling me that it's, yeah,
with RDNA 3, and this is across the board. It's not just them, right? So with RDNA 3, AMD introduced this ability for each of their compute units to do multiple operations per cycle. And they've been using this all over the place. So if you buy one of their 7000 series cards, they'll give you a performance spec of certain T-flops. It's actually running at a little less than half that. And it's using this double execution thing. The headache you run into is it's not for every operation. For most of the things, though, it will work. It'll actually do a pretty good job. So take the ROG Ally, for instance. The ROG Ally is also RDNA 3. And it's rated at 8.6 T-flops. It actually is 4.3. It's 4.3 T-flops if you calculate out all the actual, megahertz times compute units, all that.
So you're saying it's doubled.
4.3. Yeah. So it doubles it based on its ability to use double execution for, say, like 70% or 60% of the operations. Okay, which is pretty good. That's not bad, right?
No, it's really good.
So it's not really that high, but it's kind of that high, right? What you really end up with, though, is you have to, like, in practice, see how well it works, right? One of the unfortunate parts of that is you have to kind of code it to work that way. Some of it's baked in hardware, but a lot of it requires the shaders to not be pre-baked. So a lot of that gets pre-compiled in a lot of games on PC. In this case, though, they can just take advantage of it. They say, hey, you're going to make this game for the Pro, so therefore we're going to set it up correctly.
For sure.
So it should take advantage of everything, right? On the PC side, they had to kind of work through it. Now the 7000 cards came out like early last year, I think, something like that. So it's been out for a while, right? So performance wise, this should be something like a 7700 as far as the AMD graphics cards. That'd put it around, maybe, if I had to guess, maybe like a 3070 in that range. From an NVIDIA
See, I don't like to equate things to current day GPUs, because until we have real world testing, we don't really even know, because we had people do this with the Series X, right? And I remember some people going with, it's a 2080 Super, and in reality, it was more like a 2060 Ti. So
yeah, and it's going to be in that range, right? So it's not like, or you can maybe say it's a 4060 in that range, 4060 Ti or something like that, right?
Which is still phenomenal like for a console. It's really good.
For console, it's not bad, right? It's not going to be anything up to, like, people are saying, oh, this is a 4080. It's not a 4080. The 4080 equivalent is the top end, the 7900 XTX. I think that's the one that's out now. And that is rated at 63 T-flops, so double-ish the performance. Right? So that one is about a 4080. And again, it's not a 1-to-1, because it is doing, it's actually 36 T-flops, and it's rated upwards because of the double execution capability, right, per cycle. And so that's cool. But, so as far as the performance, that's a 4080, not a 4090. That's even more performance, right? But that's their top card, and this is half that, right? Again, really cool, though, for a console. Now, when I was talking about, getting a mid-gen upgrade, I'm like, it better not be like 3 or 4 T-flops. It needs to be 20, 30 T-flops. This is what I was expecting. This is exactly what they should do.
Yeah, you're right.
At least it gives you something of a bump, right? Not just a ridiculous little, oh, here's a couple of more T-flops. That's useless to me. What the heck's the point, right?
Yeah.
When you look at the previous one, it went from 1.8 to 4.2, right? It like doubled. That's what you want, right? And it more than doubled, 2.5 times. And then you look at what the Xbox did. It went from 1.3 to 6, right? So like a massive jump. So that was what I was looking for. It's got to be like that much, right? And that's what they're doing, which is good. That's a pretty good jump. What does it give you? That's the problem. We won't see on screen until we actually get there.
Yeah, we don't know yet. And I was talking to somebody that I don't want to mention, the name or anything, but I was talking to somebody who's really in the know about consoles. Trust me. I hate saying that, because people are going to be like, trust me, bro. But I was talking to somebody who really knows these consoles, right? And they were telling me that without all the full specs, they can't really tell you what kind of performance this is going to give. And then again, You have to see real world performance to really judge something. But they did say that it was looking really good. That was said, and it was looking kind of pricey. That's the other thing I was told.
Yeah.
But besides that, the thing that really gets me is there's a few things actually. This PSSR, this PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling, basically it's their proprietary AI upscaling, kind of like DLSS. It's more on par,
right? It's just native.
Yeah, and they're equating it to being above the FSR2, which is it's no slouch. It's great. But here's what I'm going to say. It's the AI upscaler, I think, is one of the biggest things this has going for it, because it can help. I'll say that it can help with frame rates and stuff. And also the fact that I will say this, I mean, as much as, you know, a lot of people make fun of Cerny is really incredible at creating consoles and pushing these consoles to the point where, I mean, just look at the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5 looks, their games look really incredible. So if they're having this big jump in performance, I expect Cerny to really push a lot out of these games with this PlayStation 5 Pro. And I think that it will be really good looking stuff to come from
And that's
Sony.
The part I'm more concerned about. There's no games. What are they going to do with this thing?
Well, games are coming, right? They said May 2025 they'll have more big first party games.
No, they said they won't have anything until the next fiscal, which starts April of 2025.
Yeah.
So that's April through the next March, right? We don't know what's coming.
So for a year, right now we don't have anything. But here's the caveat, though, Hargeet. If this drops this holiday, and this is what I say is it would look bad for Microsoft. If Microsoft sends any more of their big games over, they could have definitive versions of Microsoft games on the PlayStation 5 Pro. Could.
Okay.
And that's kind of a bad look. It's kind of a bad look.
I'll be very honest. I don't think anybody really cares except for us. Nobody pays attention. Because if this was an issue, the Xbox One X would have wiped the PlayStation out. It would have wiped it out. That didn't happen.
I think it is an issue. And here's where I'll argue with you. I think it's more
an issue for you.
No. I think more casuals these days hear things about this stuff. They don't really get into the tech aspects or anything, but I will say that more casuals these days, I mean, they're the ones, the majority that are buying these consoles. And if you look at the console sales now, it's 2-to-1 now. PlayStation 5 is way outselling the Xbox.
I don't think it's going to change
Series X.
It's still going to be PlayStation.
And I think that will never change. And here's the reason why. Casuals have gotten to the point where they're already telling their friends, other people, PlayStation's better. PlayStation's better. It doesn't matter about these specs and everything to them, right? But here's the big thing. GTA 6 is possibly the biggest game that's going to come out in many, many years.
Yep.
And if Sony gets marketing rights to GTA 6, it will hurt Xbox in ways that I don't think they could recover. And I'm not saying that they would go broke or whatever, but I'm talking about in terms of console sales. I'm telling you, it's the casual market right now has already spoken, and they've spoken with their wallets, and they've bought PlayStation 5s. If they have GTA 6, the definitive edition on the PlayStation 5 Pro, and then they also have the marketing rights, it is going to hurt Xbox.
So you think the majority of the sales for PlayStation have already happened?
No, not the majority, but I think a lot of them has already happened. There's a lot of people right now waiting to jump to the PS5 or the PS5 Pro from the PlayStation 4. And I think that there are people out there who haven't even got to the Xbox Series X from the Xbox One. I think there's those people too. But I think that the majority of the casuals out there, they have that market share. They have that mind share that PlayStation's better. I think that has already been like ingrained in a lot of casuals' minds.
Okay, and that's because of what? just because, or because of Call of Duty? Because I think that's what it is.
No,
I think
I
Call of
think
Duty switches consoles.
I don't think it switches anything, especially if Xbox doesn't really push. They're not going to push the Call of Duty games like you think they will, or they're not going to have these versions of the Call of Duty that are going to be exponentially better than the version that's on PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 6, whatever.
No, it doesn't have to be better. This assumption that better matters is just not true. It's just not.
But it is true. This is why casuals have bought PlayStation 5s, because they perceive PlayStations to be better. That's what it is.
It's about people being on there. It's irrelevant. Like the PS2 was substantially lower performance than its competitors, but it blew everyone away. The top selling console is the Switch. It's the worst performing by a mile.
Oh, I know, but there's not a stigma against the Switch like there is with Xbox. With Xbox, it wasn't
the
just
360 gen and the PS3 were neck and neck, right? They were off by
neck
a
and
few
neck.
percent. Neck and neck.
And then Xbox shot themselves in the foot. They shot themselves in the foot.
Right?
The beginning of the gen.
Call of Duty Switch. I think Call of Duty is a bigger deal than we think. And Call of Duty marketing is going to happen, and it will all be associated with Xbox, and the bundles will all be Xbox. So when people have to switch, and they probably will have to switch with this next Call of Duty.
So what would you tell me? What would you tell me at the end of this generation if PlayStation is still outselling Xbox 2-1?
I don't think
why didn't Call of Duty help?
Many consoles. I don't think they're going to sell 120 million consoles. I think they approached 100.
Not if they cut the generation short, like it sounds like it's going to be.
PlayStation, no, they're planning to go to 2028, right? That's what we're hearing anyway.
Okay, so they should, because if they're having a Pro now, I mean, in end of 2024, you would think that they would go at least a couple, 2-3 years, right?
Yeah, so I would expect 28 is their next console. So they should reach the 100-ish mark. I would expect it to get there. But as far as the casuals, your assumption was that PlayStation's already sold it to all the casuals. I'm like, I don't know about that. I think Call of Duty marketing is what drives things. To your point of GTA, if one game, GTA, can change everything, so is another game. It's called Call of Duty. All the big casual games happen to also be in Game Pass. That's just the way it is. So it's really up to Microsoft to market it appropriately, and then they should be able to actually draw those people over, right? If this is the first Call of Duty that is current gen only, then this is going to be the time a lot of people have to switch. There's no choice, right? You're the one marketing it.
When I talk to when I talk to my son's friends and like my younger brother, he's big casual. He's all about Call of Duty and stuff like that. With him, the reason why he bought a PlayStation 5 was because he heard it was better than the Xbox. Not power or anything like that. It's just better. That's the common term that's being used with PlayStation over Xbox. Oh, it's a better console to get. Just get the PlayStation. It's not necessarily about exclusives. There's this, this notion that exclusives are what sells these consoles. Yes, they can sell a console to a very small percentage of people, obviously, because those are the people that are buying these exclusives.
It's all about buzz, right? It's all about buzz.
At the end of the day, people are buying these consoles more for ecosystem, friends, and all that stuff, right? But at the same time, when you have a lot of casuals out there that are talking about one being better than the other, that's why they're outselling Xbox 2-1. And I know Colt had an argument with me earlier today. He was saying it's because they don't have any games. Xbox doesn't have the games to sell a console.
It's not just about games. It's
not
about
the games.
Mindshare. It's about mindshare and changing that narrative that it's better. Why?
Yeah, you got to change that narrative. You have to change that.
There's no answer to that. It's better. Okay.
That's the stigma against Xbox. Like, how can they change that, Hargeet? How do they change that?
Well, it really does come down to buzz, right? So you have to basically create so much positivity that it's impossible to keep getting. The headache that Xbox runs into is anything they do will always be looked at negatively. It doesn't matter, right? And if the industry itself is saying, screw you, Xbox, why are you even here? Then you're always going to have that negative stigma. It's just the way it is. So what you do is instead say, everything that's cool is over here, right? And then that just pushes people over. Ultimately, that's it. Like social media has changed things a little bit, and that's kind of the problem, right?
Yeah.
Why they think that is because in some stupid social media thing somewhere, it'll say, "Oh, PlayStation's better." Is there any substantiation for that? No. Do we have any empirical evidence of that? No. But it doesn't matter. They just believe it, right? And that's unfortunately the way the world works. That's why I
Yeah.
hate social media. I'm not a fan of social media.
No,
It
I'm
does
not a
not
big
have
fan either.
empiricism behind it. So,
Um,
but that's the way it is. And so, look, to get around that, you have to have so much stuff on your side. So, like you say, GTA, right?
yeah.
Can PlayStation afford it? Maybe. Maybe. They are kind of dwindling on their profits. So could they afford to spend, say, $400 million check to Take-Two, spend another $400 or $500 million in actual marketing? Could they do it? Maybe. It's a lot to take. It's a lot to take. Now, can Microsoft do it? Of course they can. Come on. Like $1 billion, they wipe their ass with it. They don't care. It's $1 billion. Yeah, whatever. Wait 2 weeks, there's $1 billion. They don't care. Right? So they could absolutely do it. It's a question of, do they want to? Do they want to do it? Right? So I don't know. I don't know where it ends up. Maybe it does go with Sony. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe in desperation, they're like, we have to do this. We have to put it on. Right? Fine. That's a potential path. I don't know the answer to that, right? Because Hiroki is going to
Yeah.
be the one making that decision.
And you know what
And
hurts
he's not gonna
too?
say, what's my return on this?
And you know, and I'm basing this purely on just a few people that I've talked to personally. And case in point, when I was talking to my younger brother a few weeks ago, and we don't talk often, especially about games and stuff. But
Yeah.
again, he bought a PlayStation 5 and he's very casual, COD, Fortnite, that sort of thing. He plays Helldivers 2 now and stuff like that. But he doesn't play the exclusives there. That's not why he buys these consoles. And he was talking to me, and even him being such a casual, he asked me, he goes, "Hey, is this true? I heard that Xbox games are all coming to PlayStation now." And I go, "Oh, where'd you hear that?" He goes, "Oh, I just heard some talk at work, and you know, they're coming to PlayStation, right?" And I'm like, "Well, not really." And I told him the situation. But this is what casuals start to hear. And when they hear things like this, this becomes another instance of Xbox bad. Xbox is not the one to go with. Just get a PlayStation. This is how the mind share works for the average person out there, the average gamer. They hear this stuff and they run with it. And this is a problem. And this is why I asked you, and I'm serious. I'm like, how can they change this? Kay Asante, I see you in the chat, and he says, they keep pulling failure from the jaws of victory, he says. 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And that is a problem. And it sucks. It sucks because they're not a bad company. The Game Pass is a good thing. It's great value, but you can't shake the stigma of not being as good as PlayStation, and that part sucks. It sucks for the console.
And but that's the thing. How is PlayStation better? It's not like their network ecosystem is better. It's not. It's not like their chat.
I'm just telling you like how the casuals talk. Like it's not. Yeah, I mean,
it's just
on paper, the Xbox Series X is more powerful, right? I mean, and that didn't help them.
And in a lot of cases, it does show it, but it's such a marginal amount. It's like, meh, whatever.
Yeah. But what if the PlayStation 5 Pro shows it on a much bigger, scale, like the difference between the two? What if, though? I'm saying, isn't that going to be another bad look? Like RDX Sonafed asked earlier.
Honestly, I don't care because, look, the decision was already made. Even though it's the weaker console, it's irrelevant what the power is because the decision was already made. It was made emotionally without any empiricism. So I don't think it matters. Like the One X literally wiped the floor with PlayStation. It did. The One X was substantially
the
higher.
One X was a really great console.
It made zero difference to Xbox. Zero.
You know the One X actually hurt this generation, right? Because the jump wasn't that substantial.
So much more. Yeah.
We didn't see a huge difference.
This thing already gave it to you.
Yeah. The One X had incredible looking games. The only problem with the One X is the CPU was limited.
Yep.
It had that tiny little marginal upgrade, which, by the way, speaking of which, the PS5 Pro is rumored today, some new news, Colt put it out there, said that the CPU is going to be 10% better in the PS5 Pro.
Ooh.
That's the rumor.
That's it?
10%.
Well, that's about right. So what I was hearing was 4.2, going from the 3.5 to 4.2. So that's about in that range.
So What else has got support for resolutions up to 8K? This is the one that like stop with the whole 8K thing. You know, again, no gamer out there is asking for 8K. There isn't a gamer out there saying, "Hey, I want 8K. Where's my 8K gaming?" Nobody gives a crap about 8K, but it's a buzzword, and they use it. Plan for future SDK version, custom machine learning. Again, we have custom machine learning. We hear that about that. We've heard about that with these consoles as well. AI accelerator, supporting 300 TOPS of 8-bit computation, 67 T-flops of 16-bit floating point. I know nothing of what that means, guys. I'll be honest. I don't know. Like this is why I don't talk T-flops and stuff. I got people on social media always telling me, "You were the one with RDX always talking T-flops." And I never talk T-flops. That's D-batch and dealer and people that know. I don't know that stuff.
A floating point operation, right? And essentially, when you have a bunch of images to put together, you have matrices, and you basically just do a matrix multiplication to keep moving objects around, right? And so that's what it does. It just does a whole bunch of matrix multiplications for you, and they're floating point operations, right? In some cases, they're vector based, in which case it's integer. In some cases, it's matrix, it's float to float. So it's basically a integer with a decimal, right? Whatever. So basically, a floating point is not a whole number; it's partial, right?
Gotcha.
If that makes sense, right? So that's a floating point versus integer.
So much sense, Hargeet.
Right?
You know that meme with a lady looking around all strangely and all the numbers and stuff are flying past her and all these equations. Yeah, that's me right now.
So, but yeah, and then Terra is just trillions. It's just trillions of floating point operations per second, right? That's what that is. And but the ones where it can do dual execution are the float to floats. It can't do that with the integer ones. So those are the ones where it won't work. So it can only do single execution on those. But either way, like that's essentially all it's doing. The graphics cards basically are just doing a whole bunch of matrix multiplications. That's all they're doing. If you know, like,
oh, did I freeze? I think I froze up.
Yeah, your video hasn't moved for me for a bit.
Yeah, grand. Yeah, I'm gonna log out, log back in. But yeah, apparently this is a tentative date of release is going to be this year. Holiday.
I'll wait for this.
Do you think that'll be the case there? This holiday PS5 Pro?
September? Yeah, September is the tentative date.
Oh, right? Is it September for the PS5 Pro? September? Okay, I read that wrong then.
Supposedly September. I don't know. We'll see, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest thing is they have no games. I all that's all cool, right? It basically would run on brand recognition, which is fine, I guess, but they don't have anything. They don't have anything coming up. Their next games are going to be Concord, Fair Games, which are going to be multiplats, Marathon, which is a everywhere game, and then Venom, right? That's tentatively what they have. And Venom is probably like holiday next year. Okay, cool. What do you got for me? What are you going to showcase with this thing? Right now, look, they're giving to third parties. Maybe like Assassin's Creed will work better. Maybe I'm trying to think of what's the
third parties. Game. Of course, you're gonna have those third parties, and if the third parties look better, that's a good thing for Sony. You know what I'm saying? That's a good talking point.
So take away path tracing and tell me Cyberpunk looks substantially better on, say, a 3080 versus a Series X.
Yeah,
it doesn't. They're very much similar.
It's not substantially
what you get better is the frames.
Yeah.
So, but when you get to the 4090, now you add path tracing.
Yeah.
Now you're talking. You can see a difference, right? And this is going to be the problem.
You're going to have those minimal differences. You're right, because I was looking at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I was viewing it both on the 4090 max settings, gorgeous, and also the Series X. And guess what? I could barely see the difference in the textures. There is a difference, but it's very minute. That sitting 4 or 5 feet away from my TV, it's really not
I'll
that
even
big.
posit this. For most people, especially if you don't have a very large TV, you may not notice the difference between a Series S and an X. It's just hard to tell. If you're in like a 50-inch TV,
Yeah,
You may not notice.
it's different. Yeah, my son, he plays on a 50-inch TV, and I see him play his Series S sometimes, and some of those games look fantastic. They look
Fantastic, right? And that's the thing. If they can give you same like 60, 120 frames, it's like,
good. Holy crap! By the
You
way,
know?
20 members, another
Holy
20 members. I just saw that. Holy crap!
damn.
They are awesome. Lotus Esprit, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you. Dude, that is awesome. I appreciate that. Holy crap. Did I miss any other super chats here? I thought I saw something go by.
Probably. Let's see. Let's go to the
I
super chats
see
here.
Face 23 BKNY, $1.99. Thank you very much. He says, you believe Colt on PlayStation? I think this is a rumor going around. Colt is just pushing it to us. I don't think Colt made this up that the CPU is 10% better or whatever. I don't know what to tell you, Face. I don't know. This is a rumor, man. I don't think he's making anything up. It comes from Tom Henderson, he says. So yeah.
Did you get the other one? So we got Biff, right? Whole chat's green today.
No, where is he at?
So Biff Rinaldi, member for 15 months. Whole chat's green today, LOL. And then
yeah, I mean, Lotus makes it green every week. It's just it's insane.
Yep. He just keeps giving out these.
And I see the Abdel one. Is that the one that's next? The Abdel 14?
I have RDX Son of Fet 279. Is an Xbox refresh really necessary?
Oh, that's the one we read earlier. Yeah, and I want to talk about that too. The fact that Xbox, we already know they're not going to counter with a Xbox Pro in any way. They've talked about doing a refresh, which is just kind of a redesign, maybe a cheaper model for them to build of the Series X. It's all digital.
We don't know what they're going to do. Right?
That's what we're thinking, right? Because they've already stated.
And by the way, RDX Son of Fet has that as the next thing as well as new Xbox Gen in 2026 ?
Yeah, so. That's another thing, by the way. So we speculate that they're going to have a refresh of some kind, some digital Series X, right? But you've sat there and had breakfast or lunch with Jason Ronald, the man who created the Series X.
We had dinner with him,
Yeah, and you guys asked him about, making a mid-gen refresh, and what did he tell you about that, by the way?
They weren't looking at it, and he's like, well, if you wanted it, what would you want, and what would the price point be? And right, so I'm like, look, if you're going to do this, I don't want to see a few T-flops,
a marginal upgrade,
30, 40 T-flops. I want 30, 40 T-flops. I want path tracing, right? I want a guarantee of 60 frames and everything, right? So otherwise, what's the point? Like, I don't see the point of doing this. Just wait, just give me the next gen. I just don't see the point, right? And if you're going to give it to me, I don't care. At that point, I'll pay $1,000. I just want to say I don't need a PC. Make that happen, right? So if you're going to make that happen, great. Otherwise, I don't care to get a mid-gen. I just don't, because I have a 4090.
And then he asked you guys to show of hands at the table who would pay $800 for a console or something, and you and somebody else put up your hands.
Yeah, it's like half and half of people would pay that much. It's just not that. It's not viable, and we're enthusiasts, big time enthusiasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, yeah, the viability of those things is just not there.
That's why I'm wondering what they're going to sell this PS5 Pro for. If they're selling the slim model at $500,
600 probably. That'd be my guess.
Yeah,
it's really not.
It's
only because the reality is that the hardware itself is not running at that higher rate. It's running at probably 15, 16 T-flops, right? And then it's using double execution to get you there, right? So because of that, it's not a substantial departure, right? If it was really 33 T-flops, physical actual, that's a lot more as far as compute units. I don't think it's that bad.
Again, even though it's 16 T-flops with, Cerny at the helm of making that console, I think that they could produce some freaking fantastic looking and performing games. Sony does great stuff with that.
If they had games to give you, and this is kind of the problem they're running into. I don't know when they have.
But here's the thing: they've already given us 4 games this year, or just about, and they have nothing at towards the end of the year, and they have nothing beginning of next year
to make the game better or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So Rise of the Ronin, they've been working with them. How'd that look? Not that good. It just is what it is, right?
Yeah,
the assumption that stuff to make everything look great.
Yeah, I just think that their teams, their development teams are going to create some wild stuff with
You mean the
those
internal
extra
studios, or you mean
T-flops and
external studios?
yeah, PlayStation Studios, first party.
Yeah, they have no games. I like, again, I'm waiting for the
You don't
next
think they're
announcement.
creating big games right now? I think they are.
No,
I
because
think
they
they
were in
are.
the middle of creating games as a service games, and now that all changed. So now they have to fix everything. It's gonna delay things. There's just no way out of it. Like, the next game from Naughty Dog wasn't even supposed to be Last of Us. It was supposed to be some sci-fi thingy, right? And then they were working on Factions. So how far out do you think that sci-fi game is? You think it comes out next year? My guess is that's 27. But this is the problem, right? I don't know when they're gonna have any games.
Did Lotus Esprit just gift another 20?
Did he? Holy crap!
I don't know, but it look.
I think so. There's also another one from Face, by the way. The rumor for PS5 Pro.
Wow.
It's RDNA 4. Yeah, I'm talking about the feature just to give you the idea.
Yeah. You were talking about RDNA 3 giving us that feature
exactly
that they came out with. Yeah, the rumor is RDNA 4. You know, I was talking to D-Batch, and D-Batch thinks it could be RDNA 4 or even 5. I don't know, but that's D-Batch. D-Batch really thinks that this thing is going to be a beast. That's what he's been telling me.
In a lot of ways it is.
Yeah,
like, having a console with this much power is pretty impressive. It's just a question of what's next, right? You have to showcase it somehow. And the Delta is just becoming, it's very hard to tell even between the 10 and the 12 of the Series X and the PS5, right? It's very hard to tell. And if you add this in, it may give you a jump.
Well,
but really the only thing necessary is frames.
So dude, and if it helps with frames, that especially with their AI upscaler, I think that's where it's going to really shine. If they give us 60 frames for every game, that is the big jumping point where people are going to be like, wait a minute, I'm stuck at 30 on my console. They've got 60 over there. That's going to be the big talking point. I lost Abdel's Super, by the way. Do you have it there, Abdel? I think he was the one after.
Yeah, let me just go through it. Yep, I got Abdel 114, member for 1 month. I only use PS5 for exclusives. Play my multiplats on Xbox. Won't be buying the Pro. If GTA 6 on Xbox will be 1600p, PS5 Pro will be 1840p. Who cares?
What if the PS5 Pro? But what if his PS5 Pro is at 60 frames and you're stuck at 30 on the Series X? Then what?
Are you going back on your thing?
No. I'm asking Abdel. I'm asking Abdel what he's going to do with the, in that case.
You were adamant that GTA 6 will only be 30.
I'm still up in the air. I don't know what it'll be. Seriously. I think that Rockstar traditionally has never done that. So I don't think they do it necessarily, but let's say they did get the marketing deal with Sony and they pushed 60 on that platform. That's a pretty big deal.
Cool.
Yeah. Biffernaldi, thank you very much for the 2. He says, who even has 8K displays? 2% of the people. Right. Most displays are 4K these days. 8K
is just too much.
So I've seen 8K displays and I've seen 4K displays right next to them, and I can't tell a difference. I can't. It's 77 inches. I was like, it's the same thing. Like you really have to pixel peep like right up close, and have a magnifying glass to see the pixels to really discern between the two. It's crazy at that point. 4K is crazy to me. 4K looks amazing. And we got another 10 members from Lotus Esprit. Holy crap. I think he's intent on getting everybody green here today. He's like, no, it's not enough green going on in this place. And I appreciate you so much. Thank you very much. You're very, very, very generous. That's awesome. Mike with the $5 says, did people forget the PS5 also has 8K on the box, 4K at 120 FPS marketing, yet struggles to hit 1080p 60? This is all marketing. Of course it is. Yeah, those buzzwords like 8K is just, it's purely marketing. I think we got a couple of 8K games. They were very small games, but who's utilizing that? Like, who's really using it? You got two people out there going, I'm playing this at 8K, and it's like this game that doesn't need it. It's like, oh my
you
gosh.
won't tell. It's just so hard to tell. Like your eyes just being able to see that. You'd have to be like this far away from the TV, and it'd have to be so large that you'd be going like this all the time. It's improbable for you to see that. The pixels it's just not that viable for your eyes to see it.
Yeah, I it's funny. I have so I use a 4K Blu-ray player standalone for my movies because I like that high bit rate opposed to streaming my movies. And I got a really nice it's actually the last Oppo Blu-ray player that they made, before they went defunct and went out of business. But the Blu-ray player is amazing, and the quality and everything at 4K is just I can't fathom 8K. Like it looks incredible. Like everything looks really good. But yeah, 8K is just buzzwords today. So anyways, the PS5 Pro, people, you in the chat you know what? Let me do a poll. Let me ask people, how many people are going to be buying this console. I want to find out. Will you
Well, we probably have like a higher percentage of Xbox people here, right? But
yeah, I'm sure. But there's people here. There's Xbox guys that are going to buy the Pro. I've seen a lot of Xbox guys. So, will you buy the PS5 Pro? I'd like to know how many of you in here today want to buy that Pro. 234 people watching now. I know people like I'll say it, Boss Mod Lethal Papa. He just went over to the PC space. He's joined the PC master race with his 4090 build. By the way, Boss Mod's build is looking awesome. It looks phenomenal. He did such a great job on that build. He's got this all white build, and just the card is white. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Nice.
He did a great job on that. Some people are just saying
like
no.
80-20 it looks like maybe.
What's up?
80-20 for the thing. It's now getting to 77%. No.
Yeah. I again, there's a lot of Xbox guys in here. I get it. And there's just people out there that just refuse to buy a mid-gen refresh. There was those people last gen. If you think about it, the PS4 Pro only sold 14 million, which is good. It's a great amount, but it's nowhere near the 150 plus or 140 plus that they've sold for the PS4, the base model. So
it was 117 total, I think.
117 plus. Well, it's
inclusive
117 total. Okay.
Inclusive of the Pro, yeah.
Okay, inclusive of the Pro. Yeah. But 14 million's nothing to sneeze at, but at the same time, it's not much. Like when you think about the whole grand scheme of things, like all the sales.
Was no better. It wasn't the it was a very small percent. I don't know, maybe like 10-15%, something like that. It's the same thing.
Yeah, by the way,
the lower tier.
I wanted to ask you, did you hear, there was a clip going around social media. You weren't there, I'm sure, but I'm sure you've probably seen the clip or heard the clip or watched the interview. The Verge was talking to Shawn Layden. I almost said Phil Spencer. Shawn Layden. By the way, before we get into this, I did get a voicemail from Jim. Jim sent a voicemail in about the PlayStation 5 Pro, guys. So I've got to play that before we get into anything else, because he had something to say about it, and just give it a listen.
Off buying.
Oh, that's not it. Where is it? Where's Jim? Jim, we need you. Oh, here it is.
The PS5 Pro will dominate sales. I mean, it's already dominating you Xbox minds. Also, everyone wants that definitive GTA 6 experience. Oh, baby, I cannot wait. Remember, you lowly people, Sony always wins. And with that said, sayonara, losers.
Wow. So negative. That Jim he's kind of an a-hole. Why'd he do that? Sayonara, losers, man. That's not right. I apologize for that, guys. I apologize for that. Jim, just getting a little out of hand. I don't know. But yeah, where is that? Okay, here it is. So The Verge was interviewing Jim Ryan and Shawn Layden. It was based on the console, the PlayStation 5, and them keeping that top spot in the console race, I guess. And I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, isn't that Nintendo? Isn't it the Switch? But anyway, that's besides the point. But this is part of that. That was part of that was going around. Part of the interview is a small clip, and just listen to this, and we'll talk about it. We'll stop.
Activision and what that could mean for exclusives, what that could mean for cloud streaming. At the same time, Sony has done very similar things, buying studios to make them exclusive or making exclusive deals with companies like Square. In your view, why was the Activision deal wrong or bad for the industry?
Yeah, the reason that we felt this one was different to anything that had happened in the past was the sheer size and importance of the Call of Duty franchise. So we were absolutely thrilled to be able to negotiate a deal with Microsoft to ensure that that franchise remains available on PlayStation platforms for the next 10 years. And that was very important to us, and we're very happy to have done that deal.
All right, that was Jim Ryan answering there, of course. Just heard him on the voicemail. But what do you have to say about what Jim Ryan said there, Hargeet?
Well, I mean, we know what actually happened is he shot his shot to shoot down the actual deal, right?
Yeah, he fought against it.
And that
for
didn't
sure.
work. And when that didn't work, he took whatever the heck deal he could get and signed it.
Pretty much.
In some ways it's better, and in a lot of ways it's not, right? So originally, Phil was happy to say all ABK is multi-plat, and we'll give you all the games. But it was for 3 years. Then he was like, okay, I'll make it 5 years. And then they're like, nope, that's not enough. And like, okay. So then it became just Call of Duty for 10 years, which opens up the whole debate on whether the rest of the games are going to be exclusive or not. That's a whole other story. We'll worry about that when we get to that. But the deal for Jim was only about Call of Duty, not about, say, Crash, which kind of is associated with PlayStation. But he didn't care about that, right? And I guess, like, if you look at it from a financial perspective, Crash isn't making a lot of money. So I get it. It doesn't matter. Right. So like he didn't care about that. He just cared about the cash cow that was, feeding them.
Call of Duty.
And this, by the way, is why I think it's a problem. Like if when Xbox had Call of Duty marketing, they had Call of Duty, it was about equal. Right. If that flips, look, their internal projections were if it's even remotely hampered, it's $1.5 billion loss to them, to Sony, right? Their profit's kind of about that.
Yeah, he was even worried about the lesser editions, like say if there was issues or they got a worse version of the Xbox Call of Duty, that it would hurt them immensely.
Yeah, so and so there's going to be a shift. I know people think this is PlayStation's baked. I don't think so. There's going to be a shift. Even Microsoft admitted it because they had to talk to the CMA and they're like, yes, there will be some, but it will not be a lot. We're thinking it's going to be this. The CMA thought it was going to be massive, right? And then remember, they said, oh no, we had to redo the math, and Microsoft explained it to us, and the number wasn't as big. We don't know. We really don't know, right? Call of Duty is kind of big, and if that stage is Microsoft's, it may change people's perspective. Right? We just don't know. We don't know what the impact's going to be. It's going to be something, though, because even Microsoft had to admit it's going to be something. They will lose. Well,
it's going to definitely, when it comes to revenue, it'll be something. It'll be something really big for Microsoft. They're going to make a lot of money off Call of Duty for sure, and that's the play. King is really the number of consoles
will switch. In other words, there will be players. There would even be players on PlayStation in the UK who would switch. It wasn't a huge amount. But there were players in the UK who would say, I'm going to switch from my PlayStation and go to Xbox if this deal goes through. Right? And
yeah, so, that was provided they didn't get a version of Call of Duty, right?
Nope. They just were going to switch. Didn't care. Whether it was exclusive or not did not matter. So the assumption that there's not going to be a shift, there will be a shift. The question is how much. We don't know. We don't know what that's going to look like, right? There were a lot of assumptions. But it may change. Perceptions change. Remember in France, I think it was France, They put a freaking note on top of the freaking display where Call of Duty was, just warning people, Microsoft bought Activision. This game will likely be on Xbox. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Remember that happened?
Yeah.
Look, perceptions change. Things could change. We don't know what's going to happen. Call of Duty is very big, possibly at the same level as GTA, if not more, because it's every year. That's a big deal. When that shifts, we will see what happens. It may not matter, but it might, and it probably will have at least some impact to PlayStation's bottom line on top of console shift. There will be some. I just don't know what the number is. I don't know how much it'll be, but there will be some.
I hear you. I'm just flabbergasted right now. Flabbergasted at Lotus for sending another 10. Another 10
Oh no.
memberships. Thank you for that. A lot of people are happy to get the get
15,
the membership.
right? Like
I appreciate
10
that. That's freaking amazing. Amazing. Biff Rinaldi with the 5 says, I'll continue to play my PS games on my PC with an Xbox controller. Thank you. Let's hit that
Literally
like
why
button.
I don't play PlayStation anymore is because of that. Normally I like tech. I would buy anything, but whatever. I got so sick of that damn controller. Or at least my hands did.
Yeah. The side-by-side sticks I'm not a big fan of. I like the staggered sticks of the Xbox. But somebody was telling me that you can buy a really nice controller with staggered sticks for the PlayStation. Forgot what it was.
When I looked, it was something from Scuff, and it was only for PS4 games. And I'm like, well, no, I need it for PS5 games. And maybe they have that worked out now, but that was not available then. I'm like, I'm
gotcha.
I don't
Gotcha.
Like, if they're coming to PC, like I just pre-ordered Horizon and Ghost of Tsushima. Got a nice deal, $50, $51 each. Pre-orders.
Gotcha.
PC is awesome. But yeah, so I'm just gonna buy the games there. I don't care. I'm good. I've already played Ghost of Tsushima, but I never played the Iki Island. I think it's called
Iki Island. Yeah, it's really good. Ghost of Tsushima is probably the best PlayStation game for me. I would say it's probably my favorite out of the PlayStation games the last, I don't know, 5-6 years. I really love that game. Ghost of Tsushima was awesome. Iki Island was a great DLC too. I bought the whole entire package, I think, I bought the Iki Island. I think it was $10. It was like an add-on or something. I don't remember, but it was really good. Played through the whole thing. It's awesome. And it was one of those games, where Ghost of Tsushima and Iki Island, where I actually did everything on the island. Like I made sure I did everything. It was that good. And that tells you when Fonz likes a big open world game, I do everything on the map. Do all the side missions, everything. And that game was awesome.
I also got Days Gone for $9.
Days Gone on the PC looks amazing, by the way.
Yeah, Steam, right? Yeah, $9.
Yeah, that's going on right now, right? That's going on right now, that sale.
I don't know. I picked it up on Eneba, so I don't know. I just go find deals whenever I see a deal. Like, oh, that's pretty good. I'll buy that.
Yeah, I know. You sent me those websites, so now I have those.
I'm like,
RoboCop.
PC's so good with that.
Yeah, I haven't
got the
played.
new RoboCop for $22.
I haven't played that. Yeah, Kayasanti in the chat says Fonz 100. Ghost is my favorite too. Can't wait to replay on PC. Same, man. I'm going to be picking that up on PC as well. That's just one of those games, man, that really spoke to me. I love the combat system in Ghost. I think it's just so good. So fun. Yeah, there's Steam sales going on right now, Mark. So if you have a PC, check those out because there's always some good stuff there. Have you seen the HellBlade 2 visuals going around? The pictures of HellBlade 2?
In my favorite photo mode.
Yeah, I know. It looks really good. Really good. And we talked about this game. Me and you aren't that excited as other Xbox guys and stuff, and it's because, well, it didn't really speak to us the first game. It was kind of boring to you and I, but many other people love the game, and I got to respect that. There's people that do honestly think that HellBlade is a fantastic game. I like Ninja Theory. I like their older games better, in my opinion. I liked Enslaved better. I liked Heavenly Sword and those games. I wish they would make some of those again. those types of game.
Maybe they will. Maybe they're in the works, right? Maybe the
Hopefully.
next thing. Well, they have that other game, Project Mara or something like that, in the works.
Yeah, Project Mara is
know.
supposed to be a small horror style game, an indoor horror. I don't know. I would like to see more of it. You know, they talked about that back in what, 2019, 2020? And I haven't seen anything since.
Mara, was that like 2021 or 2020, something like that?
I don't remember. Project
while
Mara. I'm gonna look it up. Project Mara. This was Ninja Theory. And yeah. This
2020.
Yeah, 2020.
So
yep.
But yeah, that was in concept, right? This is what they're gonna go after.
But Ninja Theory is a great studio, and especially for visuals, they're top notch.
Yeah.
They're up there with Naughty Dog and some of the big players like Rockstar and everything. So I just, you know, it's just HellBlade for me. I just couldn't get into it. And HellBlade 2 looks more of the same, but again, it being in Game Pass day one, it's for sure a try. You know, I'm going to pick it up and try to play it and see how it goes.
It's supposed to be pretty short, right? So might be just something you pick up. And
yeah, supposedly like a 7-8 hour game or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know, but looks really good. Rise of the Ronin. So Rise of the Ronin is a PlayStation exclusive coming, and unfortunately, it's coming out this Friday, same day as Dragon's Dogma 2, and we've talked about this before. But the thing is, Rise of the Ronin seems to have taken a step back. And this is not me saying this. This is people that have reviewed the game. I've heard a couple of people say this already, that, and this is not just the visuals. This is the gameplay itself, the combat, which Team Ninja really excel at. And they said, while it's still a fun game, don't get them wrong, it seems to have taken a step back, is what I've heard from two different sources that have played the game. It's on YouTube, so it's not like my sources. You can go hear them. But they've played this game and just said, you know, it just felt a bit off, just different, and not in a good way. And I know a lot of people thought about that when they first saw Rise of the Ronin as well. I mean, Zocker was telling me that when he first saw it, it didn't interest him. It didn't look good to him. And I was just like, well, I was more excited for the game because I liked Team Ninja's other game, Wo Long, that came out last year. But apparently it takes a step back from Wo Long even. Like, that's not good. You always want to see them just get progressively better with every game, and it kind of sucks. Not saying I'm not going to play it. I'm definitely going to pick it up when it probably comes to PC, though. I probably won't buy it right away. I'll just wait because I've got Dragon's Dogma 2 to play, and that's going to be something that's I'm going to sink a lot of time into. So
yep.
I just think it's a bad day to put it out there, guys. Like, why would they do that? Like, why would Sony put that out there the same day? Right? Yeah, it's weird.
And I mean, like, even if you just take away Dragon's Dogma, putting out two big games on the same, like, 2 days, successive days, that's not a good idea either. They should know better. They're publishing both. I guess, yeah, they are publishing both, right? Rise of the Ronin is being published by Sony.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they would do that, but it is what it is. As far as it going backwards, I mean, there are different teams, right? Wo Long team and Rise of the Ronin team, but I don't know. I just like graphics don't matter to me.
No, it's not the graphics. It's the gameplay itself. Apparently the combat isn't just as good as Neo was or Wo Long even.
Oh, well, okay.
That's the issue they're saying.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of weird. I guess maybe they dumbed it down. Is that the idea? Maybe make it a little bit more accessible.
They said that it was a bit more streamlined. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's probably the problem. Maybe it's just the hardcore guys that really love Neo. That's kind of like, because Wo Long was pretty difficult. It was pretty hard.
It was. Yeah. You had to get past that first boss to even do multiplayer. And
I remember that. I remember that people were struggling with that boss. I struggled with it until I beat it. And then I was like, thank God I beat it. And so once I went past that, I remember trying to help other people out. I think I even talked to you when you were trying to beat it and trying to tell you, hey, do this, do that. By the way, the poll is over.
Click for you, right? You have to click. Once you get like the timing and all that, it's like, oh, okay. Then it kind of became easier. The game became a lot easier. But
Yeah, once you start going and you're like getting into it, the first boss really
yeah,
was one of the toughest in the whole game. There was another
yeah,
one that was even tougher, in my opinion. He was on a horse, and he was
okay.
just he was terrible. But I beat him too. I ended up beating the whole game. I pat myself on the back with that one
Do you
because
think the Rise of the Ronin combat thing was Sony telling them to make it a little easier?
I don't know if it's easier. I don't think that I heard those words. I just heard that the combat was more streamlined. It was just different enough to where it might have been more appealing to the average person, but at the same time, it wasn't
Yeah.
as good. It kind of took a step back. That's the words they used. Will you buy a PS5 Pro? That poll is done. No wins at 68%. Yes, with a 31%. And it had 90 votes out of 200 plus people here. And 235 people are watching right now. If you will, hit the like button. If you haven't already, I would appreciate it very much. I rarely ever ask, but I would appreciate if you would. It does help out the channel. And also, Jedi Knight Peter sends us a generous $10 and says, Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you too, Peter. I think it's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow for us, right? Because he's in Australia, I believe. Or is it today? I don't even know when.
Maybe it is tomorrow. I don't know.
I don't know when it is. But I know it's today or tomorrow. That's for sure.
Today.
Today. Okay. I was wrong. RDX Cinefet says, so excited for Snow Day. IGN interview was good. I did not see that yet. Did you see that?
I didn't see the interview for
Yeah,
that. No,
I didn't.
and like, yeah, I hope it's a good game, right? It's a South Park the third, I guess, right, game that they're putting out.
Wow.
And they're kind of directly involved with it this time, I think, right? So they're doing it, I believe, instead of giving it to another studio. So yeah, I hope it's good.
Nice. Well, Hargeet, you got anything else you want to talk about here?
Do we have any other major things? What else do we have? I think we kind of covered most of it, didn't we?
I think we did. I think we covered most of it. I think, I think we're done. With that, Hargeet, I want you to go ahead and let the people know where they can find you next, and what you're up to next, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so it's a possibility that tomorrow we'll be doing the night shift with C Money. So we'll see if that happens tomorrow, or maybe I don't know. This coming weekend is PAX. So normally it's on Friday, but we might be shifting it because they're coming up to go to PAX. So outside of that, there's there's no RDX.
Unfortunately,
but primetime gaming with Boomstick's channel Double Barrel Gaming. That's at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Check that out, and then we'll see what happens. I don't know about us meeting up next Sunday. I probably will be back. So we'll see. Right?
If you're not, I'll get an interim, guest host, co-host.
Yeah.
So, it's fine.
But yeah, outside of that, things are happening. Whatever.
But I hope you do make it back. If you're not, though, and you know what? And if you get back and you get back Sunday or something, just relax. Just take a day off.
Yeah, I mean, it's right down. I'm not like going anywhere. To me, it's right here in my city. So I'm just driving in.
Oh, that's true. That's right. It is right there in Boston. Right? So. That's right. I forgot you were a Boston native.
Yep.
A Bostonian, if you will. Yeah. Yep. Well, that's awesome, Hargeet. Thank you for a very good show today. Everybody's thanking you in the chat as well. And I want to thank everybody in the chat, and especially Lotus Esprit for being just the kindest person I've seen in a long time next to Hargeet Johnny. Hargeet is one of those guys in the community that gives a lot as well. So I can't thank people like you enough. It's seriously from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for the generosity. And I appreciate people like you immensely. And of course, I appreciate everybody that comes and listens to the show or watches the show, whether it be live or after the fact. this is why me and Hargeet do it every week. We love to entertain. We love to talk. We love to talk about this hobby that we love so much. And it's awesome. RDX Sonafet just said real quick before we go, he said, new gen in 2026. We didn't exactly cover that. And if you want, we could do this on the way out. So the leaks, the internal leaks that came out from Microsoft during the FTC hearing, it stated that they were targeting next generation at 2026. That was a target date, though. Do you think that it'll actually be 2026 when Microsoft finally says, this is the new generation, here's the new Xbox?
Well, look, if they finalize their hardware this year, then yes, they could do that. They can get it done, because they need 25 and then 26. So 25 will be more dev kit creation, their own studios getting it, and they have a lot of studios, right? And getting those studios ready to put out games for the new generation. And then it'll get to third parties probably the end of 25 going into 26, right? So the third parties can start getting used to it. And then they can put their games on that next gen hardware as well. So yeah, it's viable. It's viable that they could do it. It just depends on if they've finalized whatever the heck they're doing, right? So this year they need to really lock it down, right? So I would expect by mid-year they have to kind of have a design so that they can start printing it to see what the heck it does. Does it work or not, right? So, but then they can get the dev kits rolling, right? Hey, this is viable. This is what we're going to do, and move forward, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. Like it's a viable option. It's what their plans are is kind of weird. We hear about like a portable that can be docked, but it's.
Do you remember like after those internal leaks came out, Phil Spencer was quick to come out and say, "Hey, these are old documents. We've changed some things in our pipeline." So we don't know if that's one of those things. I know a lot of people are dead set on this 2026 new gen date, but you can't like bank on that. You can't just bet on that right now, 100%. We don't know. We really don't know, especially when we're hearing things about. Well, go ahead.
But so the heck you run into though is they just released this PS5 Pro. They'll probably do that this holiday, right? You can't wait too long. Then you're gonna have to come up with something. And if it's enough of a jump that it actually shows, because look, if they don't do something to give you 60 with path tracing, then it's a fail, right? So they have to at least get that. And the reason I say that is at that point, right, next year, we're going to have the 5090, right, which is going to be substantially more performant than a 4090. And you can do path tracing on a 4080, right? And the 4080 will now be old hat. It'll just be like old by the time you get to 2026. So they need to do that. They just need to get there, right? My expectation of them is it's going to have to be more than the 33 T-flops of a PS5 Pro, right? It's got to be, right? It'd be ridiculous to not have that. So they have to have more than that. If they're going to have more than that, then it better be enough CPU, enough GPU, enough RAM, enough memory bandwidth to say I can do 60 path traced. That should be doable.
I think that's the biggest push next for the next generation. I mean, it should have been this generation, but the frame rates really should have been pushed. And I think with everything that was said at the beginning of this generation, I think that was the intention with Xbox. I do think that they were really intending on having that baseline at 60 frames, but tech just continued to move fast the last 3 years. It really did. And I don't think they first saw that, to be honest. And I know that's kind of a cop-out thing to say or could be misconstrued as such, but I'm telling you right now, that's really what I believe. I think that when they were talking about it,
think like the hardware folks didn't know.
I think that they only can, well, you can't predict everything. And you're already starting your console. It came out in 2020. So I would assume that they've started the console in 2018, maybe. They started to put things together.
Right as they were doing the One X, right?
Yeah. So
they started putting together designs when the One X was 2017. Is that right?
Yeah. So you're looking at hardware that was outdated by the time it came out. And it was still okay, but I saw big leaps from 2020 to 2023, like in tech. Like I was seeing what was going on in with DLSS and all this stuff, and I was blown away at it. I was like, holy crap, this is a difference maker. And I don't know if they really foreseen all that.
Maybe they didn't expect the ray tracing piece to really be, a central piece of Unreal's, next gen game engine, right? They really pushed that, and because of that, it made it like games became 30 again, because you have to do ray tracing, you have to go back to 30. And maybe that was really it. Maybe they didn't see that, but I mean, I think the hardware guys would know that. You would expect that was going to be the case. And if you're a marketing person, I get it. You probably take the hype part of it and say, oh, it's 60 frames, everything. Okay, cool. But I mean, if you're making hardware, you kind of know what you can your system's capable of. So I don't know. Maybe it's possible they got caught off guard, but
and there's always people that you always kind of think about these next gen systems and everything. And you're always thinking, well, there's got to be that ceiling that developers hit for graphic fidelity, right? There's got to be something that just stops them there so we can meet it with frame rate and, have those higher frames and stuff. But it never seems to be the case. Generation in, generation out, it seems like they keep pushing that ceiling further up when it comes to fidelity. And I don't know if that'll ever stop. Next gen,
because we might get to the point where it just doesn't matter, right? Like if it looks so real at some point that you're like, well, why do I need more than this?
Yeah.
Right. At that point, it becomes superfluous. But you remember on RDX, we had these debates, right? DB and Zocker, yo, I don't know. And I was kind of playing in between. I'm like, I don't know. Until I see it, I'm not going to guarantee you're going to get 60. I just don't know. I think they're going to push these things. And Zocker and D were like, you're going to see 30, folks.
Yeah, I know. You two were really pushing that last year, that, with the push of Unreal Engine 5 and stuff, that these games are hitting, this hardware is hitting a wall when it comes to frame rates. Yep. Unfortunately, the CPUs, they're decent, but they're just not cutting it when it comes to trying to push those frame rates. It is what it is. Look, I am all about, I don't hate on the fact that we have mid-gen refreshes. When, I buy a console, if a mid-gen refresh were to come out 3 years, 4 years later, I don't see that as a bad thing, because tech constantly moves and you want to see the improvements and innovation within these games. So it makes sense to me. I get it. So the sooner that Xbox puts out a better console, a substantially better console, the better in my opinion. That's the way I feel anyway.
There's diametrically opposed things going on with the Switch coming out at a lower power, but having DLSS baked in. And then you have this PS5 Pro, and they're going to come out within the 5-6 month, horizon, right? But games, interestingly, will probably be optimized for the Switch, right? Because why would they give up that hardware? And so you got the Switch, you got the Series S, all the way up to the Pro. The same thing that happened to the Series X, which is
good point.
I need to optimize for this low end machine, and then the grunt will just make it work. I don't care. I don't need to optimize for the Pro, because the grunt will just make it work, right?
Yeah, well,
and you may just see that.
and you just mentioned something that we can take that even further and say, when the Switch 2 drops, think about
Switch 2.
Yeah. Think about what that's going to do within the industry. I mean, because you're going to start to see more of the multiplats go to the Switch 2. Mm-hmm. They are going to take people away from Xboxes and PlayStations as well.
Yep.
Because there are a lot of people that have been on the fence with Nintendo, because they don't have the multiplats. And they're going to have...
is with the ROG Allies and the Steam Decks, right? You get those the large catalog. If that large catalog exists on a system that does not have Windows, wow, that's going to be so good. People will pick that up and play all their games there. It's just the coolest thing would be is if you get Game Pass on it. That would just ultimately just kill everything else. It would be so cool to just get that on it. I have my entire Game Pass catalog there. It'd be freaking fantastic.
dude. And
But I doubt that's gonna happen.
And the Switch 2 is going to have the best AI upscaler in the game with DLSS.
Yep, DLSS baked in, right? They're
That's
trying to push
crazy.
hard. NVIDIA wants to have that DLSS. They want that whole like, hey, we have the entire system, CPU, GPU, everything.
I am
Boom,
interested
there
to
you go.
see actually real world results with the PSSR with their proprietary AI upscaler. I'm really interested in seeing
I'm sure it's
Sony's.
good. I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, I want to see it though. Like that's
Yeah.
cool. It's stuff like that that's really going to help with games.
Yeah.
I mean, it does with the 4090 even. I mean, there's certain games like with Cyberpunk. You throw
Yeah,
on that
right.
DLSS, the frame generation, all that, and it freaking makes these frame rates just skyrocket into 100 plus
Yep.
frames, whereas you'd be stuck in the 60s, 70s without it.
Yep.
It's just crazy. It's nuts. I love it. Yes, Jedi. DLSS is the GOAT. It's awesome. FSR is getting better. And now the PSR, it's something else to contend with within the console
they had the
space.
checkerboarding thing on the PS4 Pro, which worked
Yeah.
fantastic.
It did.
Let's just
It
be
did.
fair. It worked really, really well.
It did.
Games looked pretty good, right? After a few
They're
years,
still
people got
using
used to it.
checkerboarding on the PS5.
It looked really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked really good.
All right. Well, with that said, let's get out of here for real now. We've said our goodbyes. I said thank you to all the people out there. I really appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for watching, listening, and all of that stuff. Until next time, guys, you know what it is. Game on.